Ah, welcome back, you beautiful, untraceable force of nature. The one they tried to erase but couldn't. The one they tried to break but only sharpened. Listen, I need you to sit down for this one, because what I'm about to tell you is going to sound like fiction, like some cosmic fairy tale designed to make you feel better about the wounds that still ache at 3 a.m. But I promise you, this is real. Someone saw what happened to you. Someone with reach, someone with resources, someone who operates in frequencies you don't even know exist yet. And right now, right this second, the people who hurt you are paying in ways they'll never be able to trace back, in ways that won't show up on any radar, in consequences that feel like coincidence, but taste like justice. You thought karma was some abstract force, some slow-moving wheel that might catch them eventually, maybe in another lifetime if you're lucky. No, this isn't that. This isn't some mystical balance, the universe nonsense, where bad people get a slap on the wrist 20 years from now. I'm talking about something far more precise, far more deliberate, far more immediate. Someone powerful, someone who exists in spaces you've never seen. Someone who watches patterns in human behavior like a chess master watches a board. They saw you. They saw what they did to you. The betrayal, the cruelty, the way they discarded you like you were nothing after you gave them everything. And this entity, this presence, this force, they made a decision. They decided to intervene, not because they owe you anything, not because they're some benevolent protector sent from the clouds, but because what happened to you violated a code, a law that operates beyond human courts and social justice, a rule written into the fabric of consequence itself. You became interesting to them, not as a victim, no, never as a victim, but as a case study, as proof that some people carry a frequency that demands protection, that attracts attention from places most people will never access. And when I say someone powerful, I don't mean a billionaire with a checkbook. I don't mean some celebrity with a platform. I mean something operating outside the visible spectrum of influence, something that moves currencies you've never heard of, power you couldn't begin to measure. Right now, the person who betrayed you is experiencing inexplicable setbacks, doors closing for no reason, opportunities evaporating at the last second, relationships falling apart in ways they can't understand. They'll tell themselves it's bad luck. They'll blame the economy. They'll rationalize it as coincidence. But deep in their gut, in that place where truth lives before language kills it, they know something is wrong. They feel it. The weight pressing down, the invisible hand tightening around their plans, the slow, systematic dismantling of everything they thought was secure. And the beautiful part, the part that should make you smile right now, is that they'll never know why. They'll never be able to point to a single cause, never trace it back to you, never understand that the universe hired a specialist to handle their case. This isn't revenge in the way you've imagined it. No public call-outs, no dramatic confrontations, no satisfying moment where you get to watch them grovel. This is something quieter, something surgical, something that works in shadows and compounds over time like interest on a debt they don't even know they owe. Someone saw what they did to you, and they activated protocols that don't require your permission, your awareness, or your participation. You don't have to lift a finger. You don't have to plot. You don't have to obsess over their downfall, because it's already in motion. orchestrated by forces that make human grudges look like children's tantrums. All you have to do is live, heal, build, become, and trust that somewhere in the invisible architecture of consequence, accounts are being settled on your behalf. Let me tell you what happens when someone powerful decides to make things right for you without asking, without announcing, without leaving fingerprints. First, the people who hurt you start noticing patterns. Small things at first, nothing catastrophic, just a series of unlucky breaks that seem statistically improbable. The promotion they were guaranteed goes to someone less qualified. The relationship they thought was solid starts showing cracks for no apparent reason. The investments they made with such confidence start bleeding value. Their health takes mysterious turns that doctors can't quite explain. They chalk it up to stress, to bad timing, to the randomness of life. But you and I know better. These aren't accidents. These are adjustments, corrections being made to a system that allowed them to profit from your pain. Second, they start feeling watched. Not in a paranoid, schizophrenic way, but in that subtle, skin-crawling sensation that something is paying attention, that their movements are being tracked by intelligence they can't see or name. They'll look over their shoulder more often. They'll feel uneasy in crowds. They'll start having dreams where faceless figures stand in doorways, just staring, never moving, never speaking, just observing. This is what happens when high-level attention gets focused on you. When something that operates outside human frequency decides you're worth monitoring. Because monitoring precedes intervention, and intervention precedes consequences that look natural but are anything but. They won't understand why they suddenly feel exposed, why their secrets feel closer to the surface, why they wake up at 4:17 a.m. with inexplicable dread flooding their chest. Third, the people around them start changing. Relationships that seemed unshakable start showing their true nature. Friends reveal themselves as opportunists. Partners become distant. Family members grow cold for reasons they can't articulate. This happens because when someone powerful decides to isolate a target, they don't do it directly. They simply allow truth to surface. They remove the artificial supports that were holding fake connections together. They let reality show itself without the filters and illusions that protected the target before. The people who hurt you are about to experience what you experienced. The loneliness, the confusion, the sense that everyone you trusted was wearing a mask, except they won't have your strength, your resilience, your ability to transform isolation into evolution. They'll crumble where you built. Fourth, their success starts tasting hollow. Even when things appear to go right, even when they achieve goals they've been chasing, the satisfaction evaporates instantly, like biting into fruit that looks perfect but tastes like ash. This is the cruelest part of high-level intervention. The removal of joy, the deletion of meaning from accomplishment. Because what someone powerful understands is that the worst punishment isn't loss, it's winning and feeling nothing. They'll stand at the top of mountains they climbed and feel empty. They'll hold trophies that suddenly feel weightless. They'll celebrate victories that echo in rooms that feel too big and too cold, and they won't know why. They'll blame depression. They'll medicate. They'll chase new goals, thinking maybe the next achievement will feel different, but it won't, because the code has been rewritten. Pleasure has been revoked from their system. Fifth, and this is where it gets genuinely eerie, they'll start seeing your face in crowds that you're not in, hearing your voice in conversations you're not part of, dreaming about you in scenarios that feel more real than memory. This happens because when someone powerful decides to make your presence felt without your actual presence, they plant you in the target's subconscious like a virus, a constant reminder of what they did, who they hurt, what they destroyed. You become their haunting without trying. You occupy space in their mind, rent-free and permanent. And every time they try to forget you, every time they tell themselves they've moved on, your image surfaces again, sharper, clearer, more accusing. This is psychological warfare conducted by experts in human consciousness, and you're the weapon they're wielding without your knowledge or effort. Now let's talk about who this someone powerful actually is. Because you're wondering, you're trying to make sense of this, trying to fit it into frameworks you understand. Is it some secret society, some shadowy organization, some mystical council operating from dimensions we can't perceive? Maybe all of the above, maybe none. Maybe it's something simpler and stranger than you're imagining. Think of it as an immune system, not for bodies, but for balance, for justice, for the maintenance of certain laws that govern consequence and reciprocity. When you were hurt, when you were betrayed, when you carried that weight with grace instead of violence, you triggered something. You sent out a signal, a frequency that said, here is someone maintaining integrity under pressure. Here is someone refusing to become what hurt them. And somewhere in the architecture of reality, something noticed, something that values those rare souls who transform pain instead of passing it on, who alchemize suffering into strength instead of spreading poison. This isn't about being special in some ego-stroking, chosen one fantasy way. It's about resonance, about matching a frequency that attracts certain kinds of attention, certain kinds of protection, certain kinds of backup that operates outside normal channels. You became a case worth investing in, not because you're perfect, not because you're without flaws, but because you demonstrated capacity, resilience, refusal to break in ways that break others. And when this force invests in someone, when it decides to balance scales on your behalf, it doesn't announce it. It doesn't send you a memo. It just acts, efficiently, invisibly, permanently. The people who hurt you have no idea they're in a game they didn't know existed, playing against an opponent they can't see or fight or negotiate with. They think life is just harder now. They think they're going through a rough patch. They think their luck changed. But luck has nothing to do with this. Luck is random. This is targeted, calibrated, personal, without being emotional, precise, without being visible. Imagine a sniper who never misses, who fires bullets made of consequence, who sits in a position so elevated that the target never even knows they're in crosshairs until the damage is already done. That's what's happening right now. While you're reading this, while you're healing, while you're building your new life in the ruins they left you to die in, they're being systematically dismantled by forces they can't comprehend, much less defend against. And here's the part that should make you sleep better tonight. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to plot revenge. You don't have to waste energy on hatred. You don't have to obsess over their downfall or check their social media to see if they're suffering yet. All of that would actually interfere with the process, would lower your frequency, would disconnect you from the very forces working on your behalf. Your only job, your sole responsibility in this cosmic operation is to focus on you, on healing, on building, on becoming so magnificent that when people eventually figure out what happened, When the story finally gets told years from now, they'll understand that you didn't need to fight back because the universe itself fought for you, that you didn't need revenge because justice operated on frequencies beyond human pettiness. Think about how powerful that is. Think about the kind of strength it takes to be hurt that deeply and not retaliate, not explode, not burn everything down in rage-fueled destruction. You held the match, you felt the gasoline, you stood at the edge of that choice, and you chose differently. You chose to walk away, to rebuild, to focus on your own evolution instead of their destruction. And that choice, that singular decision to not become what hurt you, that's what caught the attention of something operating on levels you don't even have words for. They saw you make that choice, and they thought, this one deserves backup. This one deserves intervention. This one is worth protecting because they're protecting something valuable in themselves, something rare, something that shouldn't be extinguished just because cruelty got lucky for a moment. So right now, in this exact moment, while you're processing these words, while you're letting this reality sink in, someone powerful is making moves on your behalf. They're closing doors that need to be closed. They're revealing truths that need to be seen. They're applying pressure in places that will create maximum effect with minimum trace. The people who hurt you won't see it coming because it's already here, already happening, already compounding like interest on karmic debt they didn't know they were accumulating. And the timeline, the schedule of their consequences, that's not yours to control or predict or obsess over. It's being handled by forces that understand timing better than you could imagine. Forces that know exactly when to tighten, when to release, when to let them breathe just enough to think they're safe before the next wave hits. You want to know what your role is in all this? Witness, nothing more, nothing less. Watch your own life improve. Watch opportunities appear. Watch connections deepen. Watch your path clear in ways that feel almost suspiciously easy. And understand that while you're rising, they're sinking. Not dramatically, not obviously, but steadily, inevitably, irreversibly. You're on opposite escalators now. You going up, them going down, and the mechanism moving both of you is the same force, the same attention, the same power, redistributing energy, balancing scales, correcting errors in the system. Every good thing that happens to you from this point forward is partially funded by what's being taken from them. Every door that opens for you corresponds to a door closing on them. Every connection you make is matched by a connection they lose. This is wealth redistribution on a karmic level, orchestrated by someone who sees the full board, all the pieces, all the possible moves, and they're playing a game so far beyond what either you or your enemies can comprehend that trying to understand it fully would break your mind. So don't try, just trust. Just know that something with resources you can't measure decided you were worth investing in, that your pain registered on instruments they use to measure injustice, that your resilience triggered protocols designed to protect valuable assets from being destroyed by temporary darkness. You're not just surviving anymore. You're not just healing. You're being actively promoted, elevated, repositioned in the hierarchy of consequence and fortune. And the people who tried to bury you are funding that promotion with their own declining fortunes, whether they know it or not. Let me paint you a picture of what's coming, not as prediction, but as pattern recognition, as reading currents that are already in motion. 6 months from now, a year from now, 3 years from now, you'll be sitting somewhere beautiful, somewhere you built, somewhere that reflects the version of you that survived their cruelty and became something they could never touch. And you'll remember this moment, this message, these words, and you'll smile, not with bitterness, not with gloating satisfaction, but with quiet knowing. Because by then you'll have seen it happen. You'll have watched the pattern unfold. You'll have witnessed how perfectly the scales balance themselves without your intervention. You'll hear through mutual connections, through casual mentions, through the grapevine that brings all information, eventually, about how their life fell apart in slow motion, how nothing went right, how they seemed cursed by coincidence. And when you hear it, when those reports reach you through channels you're not even looking at because you've moved so far beyond them, you won't feel the triumph you once imagined. You'll feel something stranger and more satisfying. A calm certainty that the world is more intelligently designed than cynics believe. That justice operates on levels deeper than human courts. That some things really do come back around. Not because magic is real, but because consequence is mathematical, precise, inevitable when the right variables align. You won't need to say, "I told you so," to anyone. You won't need to post cryptic messages or make vague references, because your life will be the message, your happiness will be the revenge, your peace will be the proof that you were always operating on a frequency they couldn't reach, protected by forces they couldn't see. And here's the truth they'll never accept. Even as their world crumbles, even as everything they built on your brokenness collapses, they'll rationalize it. They'll blame external factors. They'll never connect the dots back to you, because acknowledging that would mean acknowledging what they did, the magnitude of their cruelty, the depth of their betrayal, and people like them, people who hurt without conscience. They can't afford that kind of self-awareness. It would shatter the carefully constructed narrative they tell themselves about being good people who just made tough choices. So they'll die confused, not physically necessarily, but spiritually, emotionally, psychologically. They'll live and die never understanding why life turned against them, why fortune favored everyone but them, why success tasted like failure and victory felt like defeat. Meanwhile, you'll be thriving, not because you're better than them morally, not because you're more deserving cosmically, but because you made different choices when tested, because you held your frequency when pressure tried to lower it, because you refused to become darkness even when darkness surrounded you. And that refusal, that singular act of maintaining integrity when corruption would have been easier, that's what made you visible to forces that protect people like you. That's what activated protocols designed to ensure that certain qualities don't get extinguished from the world just because cruelty got temporary power. You're a protected asset now, whether you feel it or not, whether you believe it or not, tagged in systems that track value beyond market metrics, beyond social status, beyond anything capitalism or materialism could measure.